Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'll be profiling this video from 411 Outdoors LLC's YouTube channel titled 3 Ways People Are Becoming Very Strange. And the algorithm will be throwing you some bones sometimes because the title of this lesson caught my attention and I watched it, and a lot of what this guy says lines up with the signs of the times we're living in, the end of this current age of the Gentiles, the heathen Gentiles, chiefly of Esau, Edom, or the so-called white man, a society of selfish, cruel, narcissistic people out here who are eventually going to be going at each other's throats when society truly collapses. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
There's some things that I'm seeing in the public square that I think is a little strange, and it's ever increasing. I want to talk about it in this video, and I'm curious to see if you have noticed the same thing. Stick around. I'm a quiet and peaceful person. I keep to my own for the most part. I wouldn't consider myself a hermit, but I do like to get back home to the open air, the open space. I like to be where it's quiet. I'm not one of those guys that says I can't stand people. My heart is not hardened like that. I love people. I think people are quite difficult. I'm not running from people. I just like being where it's quiet. Man, if I can be in an environment where, I'm having a good time with people, that's a wonderful thing. But there are some things that seem to be reoccurring with people when I go out in public. Strange things, strange behaviors. What I'm hoping to accomplish with this video is to kind of put a mirror in front of you. And if you find yourself falling into these things, maybe this is an opportunity to step back and say, you know what, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like the crowd. One thing I've noticed is that people are in a frenzy and they're in a hurry like I have never seen before. There's this chaos with people now. I find myself doing things at times when I believe the traffic will be less, where...
First thing he said was people just seem like they're in a hurry, they're impatient, they're in a frenzy, which, with my job, I can completely agree with this. People are just going at 100 miles per hour, and in a lot of cases with nowhere to go. But this is Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. I'm going to read it in the KJV first, and then I'm going to get the New Living Translation. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end, which we're currently living in, where the books are finally being opened. The seals are being unloosed by the spirit of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. And the Holy Spirit is on the prophets, the true prophets, chiefly of GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the sincere brothers coming in the spirit of GMS to go into these scriptures and link it up with current events to show you exactly what times you're living in. Even to the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased, which, while a lot of people don't use the internet to increase their knowledge, knowledge has been increased out here. Use these phones, you use the internet, and now you've got AI to look up anything you could possibly imagine. And then chiefly, the knowledge of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, is being increased out here by the prophets preaching this word. But as it says, many shall run to and fro. Now let's get it in the New Living Translation. But you, Daniel, keep this prophecy a secret, seal up the book until the time of the end, when many will rush here and there, and knowledge will increase. And like that guy just said, he's observed people are in an impatient, frenzied spirit going in every rich direction. And, they just got to get to where they got to get to, and they got to have it. Hey, many will rush here and there. And then, on top of that, the Lord is shortening the times for the elect's sake. So everything from time to people, you name it, is going in overdrive towards the end. And then, of course, you've got cars and airplanes and means of transportation to also get people around faster, much more quickly than a buggy and a horse cart.
The crowds will be smaller in the grocery stores and things like that, just because of the energy that people bring to the table. I was riding around on some back roads the other day, just cruising with my windows down in my truck, listening to the radio, relaxing, having a good time. I was heading over to a cookout, and this guy's just behind me, just tailgating me, and instead of allowing him to get under my skin and get my nerves all worked up, you know what I did? I just pulled over at the next place where I could and just let him go around me. And I got back to my cruise, and I got back to enjoying myself. We've got to be careful not to let the frenzy that people are operating in to attach itself to us. We have to protect our own peace and make sure that we're not acting like everybody else who seems to be caught up in some fire drill all the time. Lack of
Many shall rush here, many shall rush there.
preparedness and organization from somebody else doesn't constitute an emergency for me. Being a proactive person is a badge of honor. Being able to step out from all of this chaos and atmosphere where people are running behind and everything's got to be done yesterday is a choice. I'm noticing that people are also becoming a lot less friendly, a lot less cordial. It's getting to the point to where if you smile at someone out in public, or if you say, "Excuse me," people think that's weird. I know over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a massive political divide in our country, and people have a lot more things to fight about, it seems. It didn't seem that way when I was young. It seems that way now. And I know all that stuff is going on, but I still don't think that's an excuse to not be decent or cordial. Someone may think, "Oh, they look like a conservative, I'm not going to be nice to them," vice versa. They look like a liberal, I'm not going to be nice to them.
Hey, two things. People are becoming, colder and less friendly out here and more divisive because we are at the end of, Esau's rulership in the twilight hours of America being the superpower it has been. And, with every societal collapse, the citizens turn against each other and the country eats itself from the inside out. And, on the other hand, it's just the signs of the times. There's a time to love and to come together and be at peace. And there's a time to separate, hate each other, be at war. This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. "And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians." And this is speaking of spiritual Egypt as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8, the United States of America. "So I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians." And what did he say? You've got people out here that think, "Oh, he's a Republican, I'm not going to talk to him," or "She's a Democrat, I'm not going to talk to her." Division. "And they shall fight, everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom." And, it's increasingly getting more violent out here, but it's going to get to the point to where these Americans are going to be outright deleting each other in mass numbers on the streets of America. I'm going to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 1 because he said, 15, 20 years ago, it just didn't feel like this because, it was a more so-called peaceful time for America. But now we're at the time for America to go down and, this whole system globally just to go down. And, every, damn near every great system that's ever been in place went out with great violence. A time for everything. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. There was a time when America was planted, from the 13 colonies and became what you see it as today. And there's a time for to pluck up that which is planted, this place being torn down militarily, economically, morally, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, which from his sentiment and just what you can see all around you, we're definitely not in a time of embracing, but refraining from embracing. Egyptian shall rise up against Egyptian, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. A time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace, which if you're in your right mind, you can see whether we're in a time of love and peace or a time of hate and war.
Listen, we don't have to be a jerk and we don't have to walk around like we're mad all the time to have a good sense of situational awareness. If I'm walking past you and I hit you with one of these, that's just me showing you some respect and some acknowledgement. I'm moving on. I'm not trying to stand there and have a conversation, but people think any kind of connection nowadays is weird. People walk right past the grocery aisle. They walk right past people.
A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing.
Nowadays, like they're not even there. Which leads to my next point. We're becoming a society of zombies. There's been a lot of talk about the zombie apocalypse, for the last several years. And I can't help but believe that that's some kind of omen, some kind of metaphor, not for a real zombie apocalypse like Return of the Living Dead, but the way our society is actually becoming. People, especially in these bigger cities, just walk around like they're on some sort of assembly line, man. It's like everybody's just going in the same direction. They don't feel anything. They don't see anything. They're just programmed to do a few certain things. Much of this has a lot to do with the fact that people have a screen in their face all the time now. They're so used to being entertained by a screen that they have forgotten to actually flow and function in real life. I think people need to learn to put their phones down and go do real life menial things. Go do something boring. It will be amazing for you. Go have an experience that doesn't have to be shared on social media. I don't mind social media, but it's not always a real life depiction of how that person's life is going. It's a highlight reel for the most part. Nowadays, people will friend you on Facebook, but not speak to you in public. We can refuse to be zombies. We can refuse.
Why do you think that is? Because we live in a narcissistic society. That's all social media is clout chasing, getting likes instead of relationships, getting that blue check mark, so to speak, the highlight reel, which this is 2 Timothy chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 1. And the header reads, difficult times will come. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, getting that highlight reel on social media, covetous, people greedy for money out here, getting that bag, boasters, proud, again, putting up this reputation of somebody that you want people to perceive you as when you're far from it. Blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. And we can clearly see that America is a godless society. And really, just the West in general is a godless society. Without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, which, when you go into that word incontinent, it goes into pretty much not having any discipline over, your sexual tendencies, which we can see all these things, just concentrated into the average, American citizen out here. false accuser, a truce breaker. Nobody keeps their word. You got a bunch of liars around here, bunch of, sexual deviants. Hey, hence why you got STD rates rising all across the country. Fierce despisers of those that are good. If anybody tries to tell people, so-called right way or to have some discipline out here, or you're a hater, you're trying to keep me down. Traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of the Most High.
Choose to live our life like we're on some assembly line. We can be real people with real feelings and emotions, and we can care about others. We don't have to let our hearts grow cold just because of the lawlessness that's abounding in the world.
Let's rewind that.
Will friend you on Facebook, but we can refuse to be zombies. We can refuse to live our life like we're on some assembly line. We can be real people with real feelings and emotions, and we can care about others. We don't have to let our hearts grow cold just because of the lawlessness that's abounding in the...
He quoting straight from the scriptures with that one. We don't have to let our hearts grow cold due to the lawlessness abounding out here. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And when we go to that word iniquity in the Strongs, it's G458, anomia, which in the outline of biblical usage says the condition of without law, because ignorant of it, because of violating it, contempt and violation of law, iniquity, wickedness. And this is ultimately talking about this world being without the laws, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures, which, if this world was governed by that standard, all these issues he's complaining about and all these issues, people deal with in their daily lives wouldn't be taking place. But we live in a wicked society ruled by, the man of sin, the man of lawlessness, Esau, Edom, who does everything clean contrary to the scriptures. Hence, why you see everything turned upside down. As it says in Proverbs 29, verse 2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. And when the true children of Israel are back in power, ruling this earth in the kingdom of heaven, the children of Israel consisting of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, this world will be governed by the laws, statutes, and commandments. But when the wicked, Esau, beareth rule, the people mourn, which you can clearly see these people are mourning out here. So again, and because iniquity, lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. That word cold is G5594. Psycho, which psychopath is somebody that has no regard to the emotions or the well-being of another individual. It's just about their own, self-satisfaction. Metaphor of waning love, that cold selfishness out here. Men shall be lovers of themselves, covetous, proud, boasters, haters of those that are good. So let's rewind him one more time.
We can be real people with real feelings and emotions, and we can care about others. We don't have to let our hearts grow cold just because of the lawlessness that's abounding in the world. Why does that darkness have to get on the inside of us and affect the way we live and the way we feel toward others? I don't have to hate you just because I disagree with you. In a lot of ways, I feel like movies like The Matrix are a metaphor for the way our world has become. And it's quite eerie how common these things I have described are becoming with a large part of the masses. Listen, I know times are hard. I know inflation is terrible. I know that a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet. We all face hard times. We all face struggles. But the moment those things become our identity, we're going to start going downhill. People are impatient, they're rude, they're in a hurry, they're in a frenzy, they are unapproachable, they're unfriendly, unloving, and they're walking around like zombies, man. regardless of your worldview, your religion, or your stance.
For in the last days, perilous times shall come. But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere, Akim and Aquath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.